Okay, welcome to my video of how to make chocolate chip cookies. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to lube these cases. What I use is I use Imperial Sizing Wax. It's the best stuff. I swear by it. I've had this can for about 10 years, easily 10 years. We're down to the end of it. So with this stuff, all you need to do, take a little bit, and I mean a little bit, it don't take much. Put it on your hands, get it on your fingers, move it around, and then I'm just going to work through the brass just like I'm doing right here. It's going to be hard for me to talk and do it, but I'm going to work through the brass, make sure I get it all pretty gone through. When I'm getting ready to size, before I start sizing, I'll take a handful and maybe rub them back and forth like this. But that's it. Once you go through your brass, you have this on your hands, and I'm telling you, it lasts a long time. I could do 3 times as much with what I just put on my hands with that wax. It's really good stuff. So we're going to take this now. Of course, this brass has been cleaned. It's been, after it was picked up, it's been cleaned. This brass is all scavenged brass or new brass, so it's only what I call one fire. It's been fired once, okay? So this brass, more than likely, when I size it, it's going to stretch, and you're going to probably have to trim, or I'm going to probably have to trim every one of them. So this is the first stage of the loading process. We've got lubed brass. Now we're going to go over to the sizer. Okay, so now I've got my all my cases lubed. They're ready to roll. I've got my 556 cases here. Again, like I said, I've still got lube on my hands. I'm going to give it a little rub back and forth. Make sure they're ready to go. And I've got my RCBS single stage press here. This was given to me probably back in 1992 from my father-in-law. Had it ever since. This thing is like the cornerstone of reloading for old timers. I still load all my 308 and high-powered rifle stuff just on this press, single stage. But for the 556, I use this to do the sizing. Okay, so we've got a sizing die in here. It's going to size the case. When you size the case, you're putting a case that's been shot and you're squeezing it up in there. Usually it lengthens the case, makes it longer. Okay, so that's why for brass that hasn't been reloaded a lot, the next stage is going to be trimming. But we'll put this in and I'll show you how this goes through. We do this one at a time. Just one step at a time. So we put it in there. If you don't have it lubed, if you don't have these cases, these rifle cases lubed, or for that matter, my handgun stuff, I use carbide dies, and you don't need to use the lube. That's why we use everything. We do the whole operation on the Dillon, the Progressive. But if you don't lube these cases, you'll downstroke it, you'll get it up there, and you won't be able to pull it out. So you'll have to completely go through another process of pulling out a stuck case. So that's why you want to make sure they're lubed. Okay, so we'll go through and we'll do a couple of these. Get a system down. They go pretty fast. They don't take a lot of time. You want to make sure the primer falls out, and that's it. So you go through. So when you have them all done, and I've got a whole stack of brass that has been deprimed and sized, now you're going to see the maximum you want to use is a 1 point. So this is a 1.765 is what this is reading. Okay, The minimum case length you want to reload, or the maximum, I should say, is 60. Okay, 1760 would be the smallest you want to do. Okay, if I find cases, I'll go through here when I'm done. If I find cases that are under 1.755, I'll leave them alone, and I won't go through and trim them. Anything that's over 5.5, I'll separate and I'll put them in a different container, and I'll go through and trim those. Okay, when I trim them, I trim them down to 1750. Okay, that's perfect. Now you'll find some, as more you shoot and stuff, ones that are under 50, that's fine. I usually will shoot them unless they get under 40. If they're under 40, it's a bad case. I got too much brass. I'm not going to mess with it. But anything between 40 and 50, well, actually, like I said, anything between 40 and 55, I'll say it's good, and we'll go from there. So now that we got this, we got to take them out and we got to trim these, because, as like I said, most of them will be over. Now see, that one's just a hair over 50. That one's almost 7. So we'll take these out now, and I'll show you what we do when we go through and trim them. Okay, so now we've got our cases lubed. We're going to come out and trim them. So this is the trimmer I use, okay? It is really bitchin'. I use it in my drill press, okay? We're out in the garage because Tammy won't let me do this in the house, so I have to come to the garage. So this trimmer has got just a trimming bit inside. What happens is you take your brass, you stick it up here, and it spins, and you preset this. So it's by trial and error with some calipers. There's a little set screw there. You put the depth of where you want it. In this case, like I said, 1.750 is what I'm aiming for. You stick it in there, you get it all set, then you just chuck it up and put it in your drill press. It's supposed to run at about 1,000 RPMs. So I've got this thing set. I think mine's at 950 or 970, close enough. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll turn it on, and as it's spinning, you just go in there until you feel it not cutting anymore. Once you've done that, throw it in the pile and go to the next one. So if you've seen the other types of trimmers, they have little trimmers, the green ones that you bolt it down and you turn the crank and stuff. If I had to use one of those for as many 5.56 that I do, I would go crazy. There's no way. If I was doing precision ammo, 20 at a time or whatever, maybe so, but this is the only way to fly on 5.56 ammo. So we'll get started and I'll show you what's happening. Probably won't be able to talk because it's loud, but here we go. You get a feel, you can tell when it stops cutting. Shavings are flying everywhere. Some of the ones that are really long, you can really hear them grind and do a lot of cutting. But like that one was a long one. Like that one. This thing is just so bitchin'. Like I said, I would never do it any other way. So now you've got these, and you're going to take them and just double check them. And you see 1.5 or 7.50 or close enough. .50. Okay. So you go through that stage and you get the whole basket trimmed. I'll go through and I'll do this with everything. And I'll use this one and I'll trim up the whole basket. Once I get the entire basket trimmed up, then I got to go to the next thing. So the next step is chamfering inside and outside of your neck. And then also on new military brass, or new, mostly all 223, 556, they crimp the primer pocket in. So in case they're being used on automatic or whatever, but they'll put a different crimp in. Sometimes you'll see a ring that goes around the primer pocket. Sometimes you'll see 3 or 4 like marks where they stake it. But whatever it is, you can't put a new primer back in here until you remove that crimp. So we've got 3 more steps. We've got the chamfer outside, chamfer inside, and removing the crimp. So we'll go to the next one. Okay, so the next step, I'm going to use a simple countersink drill bit. I bought this for about $3. I've been using it for years. There's all kinds of ways to do this. You can buy machines for $250 that have all this stuff on it. You know, I'm a cheap bastard, so, and like I said, I want to do this. This is the worst part of reloading. I want to get it over with. I want it to go fast. So what I do is I buy this little countersink bit. What I'm going to use this for is I'm going to chamfer the inside of the neck of the case, and then I'm also going to turn it over in the same operation while I'm using this tool and take a little bit out to kind of chamfer and remove that crimp for the primer pocket. So I can kill 2 birds with 1 tool right here. Okay, so I'll show you how that happens. For this operation, I usually change my drill press down to about 500. It doesn't need to go so fast. I believe I've got a setting on here that's about 430. I'm not going to do it right here, so you're going to see it going pretty fast. You don't have to go that fast. I change it down because you're just taking away a little bit of metal. There's a burr. When you trim it, there's a burr on that. You can probably see it. There's a burr on that thing on the outside and on the inside from cutting down the neck and trimming it to size. So you just barely want to touch it when it's going on this thing. So this is how I do it. I usually go here first, just enough to remove it. Okay, then I flip it over. I just take a little bit out, and it puts a chamfer on there. It still holds the primer nice and tight. I've had very, very few. If you go too deep, you'll take out too much, and you could have loose primers. I'm not going to lie and tell you I'm perfect, but again, I've done this a lot and usually with good results. So this is my method. So I'll show you how I do it. Again, now I've got a small, the crimp's been removed, the inside has been chamfered, and now there's only one thing left to do, and that's to do the outside of the neck. Okay, to do the outside chamfer, I bought this tool that this inner part here chamfers the outside of the case neck. Okay, it goes up in there. It's the standard chamfering tool. It does both sides, but I don't like to switch around and everything, make it fast. Like I said, this is the worst part. So I just use the outside part of the tool on this one. But inside this, if I was to remove this set screw and take it out, it's your standard RCBS chamfer tool. It's got a cone on the other side where I could flip it around and do what I did on the last one to do the inside of the neck. But I don't. So we'll chuck this up. And then now we're on our last phase. We've already done the inside of the neck. We've done the primer pocket crimp removal. So now all we have to do is to do the outside of it. definitely want to keep your fingers away from that because that'll turn it into meat real quick. And that pretty much completes prepping the case. Now after this, remember I've still got some lube on these from the lube. I've never cleaned them off. So now what I'll do is I'll take these cases and I'll put them in the tumbler and let them tumble for about 20 minutes. That's enough to get all the lube off. They'll be nice and clean and not sticky anymore. So I'll take those now, go stick them in the tumbler. I'm not going to show you that you don't need to do that. But anyway, I'm going to clean them off. If you don't have a tumbler and you want to wipe them off with a rag, that's fine too. But I like the tumbler because it gets the lube from the inside and everything. So we'll take these cases that are done. They've been prepped. Now we're ready to load. Okay, Johnny, I've already cleaned the cases, all the lube off the cases. Cases have all been checked for length, trimmed, chamfered. Now we're ready to start loading. So what I'm going to do is I got to load my machine, take my primers here, and it's a little different with this tray. So put them in here. Now when I put them in the tube, they got to be shiny side up. So what I usually do is I just take them like this, get them in there, flip them, and then take my primer tube, right, and start filling them. And away I go. Okay, and then when I get to the last one, pick up the last primer tube. So now I've got to flip it over, and we're going to put this on top of the machine, the loading tube, and we'll pull this pin and all the primers fall in. Okay, so now we're ready. So we've got a bunch of brass that's all been prepped and ready. No primer in it. So we'll start the operation. So we're going to stroke on an empty. We got no dye in this first station. We're just putting the primer in is all we're doing. See, now we got a primer. All right, so we're spinning it to the second station, which is dropping the powder. So the powder will drop. It's already been preset. I've got it dialed in at 24.5 grains of 335. So on the downstroke, we'll put some powder in it, and typically when you're setting it up, you want to make damn sure that you're getting consistent drops. So you take it over here to the scale, put it in the scale, weigh it up, make sure you've got 24.5, which I've already done it, and put the powder back in and continue on. So we'll do that. We'll put this thing back together, these little pins out. So then we're going to take it to the next station, which is going to seat the bullet. So I've got a bunch of 55 grain full metal jacket boat tails here that I've got. You just set that on top, stroke it, and you've got a finished round of ammunition. Again, station 4, if you were going to do a crimp, that would happen in station 4, but we're doing a light taper crimp that happens in this bullet seating, and you get that by setting the die just a little bit deeper. Read your instruction manual for the process of that. So now we're going to get started, take a look and see what it looks like to get going on this. So here we go. And of course, when you're doing your, your bullet seating, when you're setting this station up, of course, you screw it in, seats the bullet deeper, screw it out, not so much. You're going to have your calipers, which they're in the other room right now, and I can't show you, but you'll make sure that you're getting pretty consistent. They're not all going to be exactly the same because the bullets are a little different, but you get them pretty close and find an average of what you want. These are set at 2.247, which basically, if you look at it, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see that it's just right there at the cannular. So that's it. Now you just sit down and do a whole bunch of them, and you got yourself some nice ammo. Okay, peace.